Welcome. How are you? There's no streamers. There's no balloons. I don't know. This is the Talk to the Mayor program, the first one for 2017. As you can see, we still can't find the mayor. And because of that fact, Dave Nagel has agreed to come in here one more time. He's our deputy mayor. So if you're just joining us right now, and it is the 9th of January at around 8 o'clock or so, that means that we are live on your community television set, NCTV. And in a little while, we'll open up our phone lines. If you have any comments or concerns or anything you'd like to ask, you'll be able to do that. And also, you can send us emails at talktothemayor@nctv.org. Hi, Dave. How are you?
Hey, how are you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Good.
So Roy's feeling better, right?
Roy's feeling better. He's progressing. It's taking longer than he anticipated. I mean, if he had his way, he'd be sitting here right at this moment.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting used to you, Dave. I don't know.
You got to listen to doctors. You got to listen to people who are doing physical therapy with him, and he's coming along nicely.
Well, he was emailing me.
Should be home soon.
You know, that was more than before. So he was emailing me, and he was concerned about the show, specifically your performance. He said, you know, I'm not sure. Can you take Dave again, or should we have the police there? And I said, you know, that might be a thought, just because we can't really be sure.
Or have both.
Yeah. So fortunately, our good mayor, Roy Zartarian, said, why don't we see if we can get Chief Steve Clark to come in? So, how you doing, Chief?
I'm doing well.
Nice to see you.
Well. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really appreciate you coming here. Last minute notice.
Not a problem.
A lot of activity over there, huh?
Yes.
They keep you jumping.
Very busy.
Holy cow! How were the holidays in general? How did we do in town?
They weren't too bad. You know, the typical with the latest snowstorm, some accidents, traffic on the Berlin Turnpike during the Christmas rush, the typical shopliftings at some of the retail areas on the Turnpike. But all in all, nothing serious, but it was busy.
Do you find that in these times that there's more of that kind of stuff, like shoplifting and stuff? Is there more of that going on? Do you see more people coming from out of town to Newington to do it? Or?
Newington draws a lot of people from out of town, especially on the Berlin Turnpike, because of the retails, the restaurants. So the Berlin Turnpike has always been an attraction, especially for people that live in the Hartford region. So, but typically, you'll see more traffic on the Turnpike during the Christmas holidays as people go and shopping, and the restaurant scene increase as well.
And we did stuff for Cruiser again, right?
Stuff for Cruiser at Walmart, which was more successful than it was the previous year. So
really?
Every year it seems to grow. So it was a very successful year.
You got quite a crew doing that too.
Yeah, I mean, the officers are enthusiastic. They enjoy doing it. They enjoy helping out. There's a good relationship with Human Services, so very successful. A lot of fun, and it's nice to see.
Now, also, just recapping a little bit over what was going on in December, we had the service for Peter Lavery that we do annually. That was December 30th, right?
Right. It was. We had it December 30th. It was the 12th year. And the way the ceremony is, it's the time of the call on that night was 10 p.m., 10:22. So we try to match the service with the time of the call. So we started just before. So right around 10:22, we do the final call of his call number. So it's a very moving ceremony. It was very well attended. The Lavery family, a lot of retired officers, current officers. You get officers from around the region, friends of Peter. So it was very moving, and it was very well attended.
I think it's one of the most powerful things we do in town.
Yep.
And I like the fact that people are welcome, but it's usually a pretty quiet group. There's seeing some old friends and
Yeah.
and seeing some of even the retired guys, that come in for it too, which is nice because there's been a lot of changes in the last 12 years, and there's probably quite a few folks on the force right now that may have never had the honor to work with Peter or know Peter, right?
Right. There's a lot. I mean,
Really?
we've hired a lot of officers over the last 12 years, so you're exactly right. There's a lot of officers that didn't know Peter, didn't work with him. But when you go over to the police department at the back door, there's a memorial there for him. So every day the officers come in, they see Peter's memorial. They go out to start their tour of duty, they see it again, and then when they come back, when they finish, they see it. So it's a constant reminder of the sacrifice he made, but also how dangerous the job can be.
It was interesting. We lost another great guy back a month or two ago from Newington, Jim Brown. Down at had the property down there on the Berlin Turnpike where Starbucks is, and you'd never know Jim had a penny. He'd be out there looking for pennies. He was always cleaning the parking lot, working on the gardens out there. The landscaping was beautiful. Jim took a lot of pride in that. But when we lost him, he had supported the ride for so many years, and so many things with Peter, and it was amazing because Pam came to his funeral.
Yep.
She got up and spoke quite a bit about what the relationship between Jim and the Lavery family had meant.
Yep.
So that was really, really something. But man, 12 years, Steve. Now, were you with us?
I was actually working that night.
You were?
I worked in overtime. I was up on Stoddard Avenue when the call came in. Actually, I was with, back then it was Sergeant Morgan, Lieutenant Morgan.
Yep.
Both of us were up there, had an accident. I was actually working a district car overtime. Just finished up with the accident, made an arrest for a DUI, and told Mike to bring the suspect back to the police department for testing. Just finished up, heard the call come in, and then drove back to the police department and pulled into the backyard. And that's when Officer DeSimone started saying into the radio, shots fired, and Peter was down in the cellar. So we all flew up there, went up there, tried to get some information, thought that we could put a team of officers together to go inside and get Peter, and met with Larry, debriefed him, and he described to me that he was sure that it was an assault-style rifle, full automatic. And
Unbelievable.
he had been hit multiple times. So, but that's how it started and played out. It lasted all night into the morning.
Well, I will say, when did you first get on the force with us, Steve? What year was
1986.
Because shortly thereafter, we had the lottery thing, too. You were
Lottery
involved
was,
in that.
I was involved in that. That was March of 1997 with the lottery. So, for a small community, we've had some pretty major incidents in town.
Well, maybe I could ask then, and without going into too many details, what about how do the officers get through that period of time? Do you have specific people they meet with or counselors? Or how does that whole thing unfold after something like that?
We have mandatory debriefing. For the lottery, we met afterwards and discussed it. And any major incident that you have, you'll have a debrief. It's kind of like lessons learned, but it also gives people an opportunity, to. There's really two. There's a separate one for the actual operation, but then you have another one for, people have concerns or things of that nature. And then Peters, we had a mandatory debrief. We actually had another one for the family members. And then we had one for the kids. And,
Really?
You don't think about it, but the kids there's a huge cost on the kids, especially when they're young, and they don't understand. They just, they're whether it's their father or their mother, they're going to work, and when the kids are young, they don't understand the dangers of the job. So there was a debrief for them.
And how many other families? I mean, when you look at all the guys on the PD, and I'm sure their families and their kids and everything, just way too close to home.
It spreads out, so it's important that, people get taken care of, and, and I think we do a better job at it now than we once did. When I first started, you'd have some major incidents, and you'd walk away, and you just kind of, you took care of it yourself, on your own devices, but we're much more in tune with that. our police department, we have a peer support where we have officers specially trained to deal with that type. So officers feel comfortable. They can go talk to the peer support officers. So
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw that at the academy.
Yeah.
They were saying, when Michael graduated, and they talk about how important it is that the guys are able to separate that
Right.
when they go to their family.
Right, and cops, they want to trust other cops, so they're more likely to go speak to an officer than they will to a stranger. There's that trust factor. There's that factor. You know how I feel, and we do the same job. A lot of people really don't understand the difficulties of the job and the toll it takes on you. So that peer support network kind of fills in that gap.
And very much like the military.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you know, just by coincidence on television, we hadn't planned it this way, but today is Law Enforcement Law Appreciation Day.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we certainly appreciate you.
So,
Thank you.
So now, did you know that, Steve?
No, I didn't. I didn't know that.
You felt like they were treating you like they do every other day, right?
Yeah, but
You better go back and talk to
the
them.
day's almost done, but
well, you'll take it, though.
Yeah, I'll take it. Whatever's left, I'll take it.
Well,
Very much appreciate all that your department does and what you do.
Thanks.
and we actually had a bit of an agenda because for those of you who are just joining us right now, I'm sorry. I don't mean I'm sorry you're joining us, but this is the first Monday. Actually, the 2nd of January is the first Monday, but because of the holiday, we moved to Talk to the Mayor program to the 9th of January. And so if you're watching right now, and it's about 10 after 8 or so, that means we're on the air live. And our guest in the studio, thank you to Mayor Zartarian. We have Chief Clark with us, so we're going to be talking a little bit about something that I guess Roy is pretty close to, and I got a feeling that the council and I got a feeling that other people involved with the town of Newington are pretty close to, and that is the main reason we brought you here tonight, which is this communications tower.
Right.
There's been all kinds of questions about. So now, Dave, what kind of dealings have you guys had with it with the council? Is this a discussion that comes up, or is it money involved here that we have to be concerned with, or what?
A discussion will come up. It is in the CIP fund for the town.
What's that, CIP?
Capital improvement projects, which we have every year. We have in we have in our project our budget set aside monies for projects such as this, and it was thought that, and I know you'll talk more about it, that a tower. Some money was going to be set aside, especially for this kind of tower last year, and then it seemed to be the case that the state was going to continue letting us use their tower, and they have since changed their mind. So it was there, and it was placed back in there as a definite budget item to have this tower built. I know the chief will talk about more details about it. So it is something that is already planned through CIP and eventually will come to the council when it comes to budget time to make it a definite part of the budget. And I don't see this as being a controversial thing at all. It's much needed safety first. One of the major things that all of us on the council are aware of and more than approve of. We want to make certain that the people in Newington are safe and that our police department is taken care of. I know many years ago there was some talk about having another tower put on. This was before you may have been on the force in another place, and that was kind of didn't come to fruition. So with this tower, which is better, I believe, than the tower that is now there, you'll even have complete and better communication than you've had in the past.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it to the chief to explain more details about it, but that's where we come in.
Where's the tower that we currently have?
I wouldn't even call it a tower.
It's a whippersnapper on top of something.
Basically, it is a antenna on top of an elevator shaft on top of Cedar Crest Hospital, the old hospital building.
yeah.
And as you know, it's elevated. The antenna's been up there for probably close to 40 years. Actually, like a year or so ago, there was some information from the state that they were considering taking down the building. They've taken down some buildings up there. There's a 54-acre site up there. So there were some discussions about them taking the building down. I talked to Department of Administrative Services, and they assured me that there were no immediate plans to take the building down. And I had actually put some money, a request for CIP for a radio tower, thinking that they were going to take the tower down. They said they weren't going to do it. And I had that CIP request taken out of the budget, was $230,000. And
Excuse me, how much?
230. That was last request. This CIP request is 240. So back over the summer, we received information that the state was now considering again taking down the building, and they were more serious now than they were previous, and said the building could be demolished within 18 months to 2 years' time. So
How much land is there, Steve?
there's 54 acres
So
up there.
why all of a sudden is there an urgency to take that building down when it's been sitting there all this time? Have they got other plans?
We all understand what the situation was with the state. It's 54 acres, so I don't know if they're considering selling the property. The building, they had security up there watching the building because of the utilities, so they're paying security. So basically what they're trying to do is mothball the building. They've been cutting the utilities. A couple times they went up there, did some work. They actually knocked us off our system with the utilities. So it's not a tower. It's basically an antenna that's on top of the building. We have an equipment room up there also that houses our electronics. So because the state has given us notice that we have to remove that equipment, now we have to look for an alternate site. DAS was very good about Department of Administrative Services,
Thanks.
DAS. We found a plot of land up there just south of the building. And they helped us toward working with our legislators on a Conveyance Act. Basically, the state conveying a small parcel of land to the town for the purposes of constructing a tower. We'd have to put an access road, we'd have to run electricity, so it would be expensive. BOF has a tower that presently there now that's 100 feet.
Now, why would they have a tower? Is that for their trucks? Or it's a big tower.
That was for their trucks. They don't use it anymore, but there's a 100-foot tower there. That's just over the state property line.
Okay.
So it's between the state property line and the actual quarry. So it's there with an old equipment room that would have to be removed because it's deteriorated to the point where you can't use it. So fast forward, BOF, we've been working with BOF. They're very interested in allowing us to lease a small parcel there for the purposes of constructing a tower to replace our antenna that's at the Cedar Crest site. The caveat to that would be for public safety only, no commercial carriers. So that would be Newington Police, Fire, EMS, and not only is the police department on top of Cedar Crest Hospital, but the fire department is too. So we would have to move that antenna, so everything would go over to a new tower to replace the 100-foot tower that's presently at the BOF site.
So that 100-foot would come down and we
come
put
down,
something
it
else
would be
up?
removed, and then we would put either a 150 to 175-foot tower to replace the antenna that's on Cedar Crest. So the police department would go there, the fire department, EMS, American Radio Relay League, which is a private organization in town, also has an antenna on top of Cedar Crest. They expressed interest in coming over. We use them as like a backup. There's some confusion with the Newington High School tower. Now,
Oh, the one that's like, is that actually
Right.
in the cemetery? Is that in West Meadow?
it's right by the ball field in the cemetery, and that's our backup site. The town generates about $40,000 a year in revenue from rental fees from that towers, but our backup antenna is there. What we need to maintain the capacity and the efficiency of our radio system is the elevation of Cedar Mountain. When we go to the backup at Newington High, our radio capability diminishes greatly. We just don't have that elevation. Our system is a very simple system. It's very antiquated. I mean, you saw some of the pictures. I wish we would show them here tonight, just how basic it is. It's not a public safety system. It's just it's a conventional business system. So we operate off of one antenna. It's an analog system where it's 1980s technology. A lot of the equipment is reaching the end of its service life where they're not able to get replacement parts. So the long-range plan is to get off Cedar Crest because we have to. We have to get off the building, build the tower, and then the next phase would look at is going to a digital system, which is more modern, current. And just merely going from an analog to a digital system may improve our the capacity of our radio system, where we could still continue to operate off of one tower. We need to look at, and I don't want to get into specific areas in town, but there are gaps in our radio system where our communications.
Would that clear it up?
And with a digital system, it may fill those gaps. If it doesn't, then we have to look at adding another tower. Whether it's going on somebody else's tower, I think there's enough of them out there that we could probably go on to fill in those gaps.
What is the land agreement with where you want to put this tower?
It's a 25-year lease for $1 a year. And then after the 25 years, we could continue. But who knows what technology is going to be in 25 years? I mean, we just don't know.
So what's the piece of property there that we would have? How big is it?
It'd be 100 foot by 100 foot.
Okay.
If you go down Russell Road, you get to the end of Russell Road, there's a gate that's there. That's the Balf Gate. Right after the gate, there's an access road that goes along the property line between Balf and the state of Connecticut. There's telephone poles there. There's electricity already run right up to the tower. So it's right there. It's right on the Balf Quarry by the edge.
So Balf doesn't really need this kind of technology anymore?
No, I think some of it too is they know we're going to check our equipment, so we'll be up there keeping an eye on it. And they've had problems with kids up there, so it works well for us because it solves our need, but also gives them extra security, for kids hanging around up there.
Well, as long as we're up on the mountain, what's the status, Dave, as far as what we hear with where Cedar Mountain is, where it is now, and where it may be going? For a long time there was Save Cedar Mountain, and they were talking about development up there. Where does all that stand today?
At the moment, it's still in limbo beyond the property that the town has purchased. And I believe
quite a
we're
bit
at the
left.
end of what funds that we had to spend to acquire that. And that is a positive. The other parcels, it's all up for negotiation, and there's nothing firmly that's been said. Of course, the town has always been aware of what is there, but there's been at this time no further movement in terms of any of those pieces of property, either in terms of the town getting it in one way or another, or rumors of any other private enterprise wanting it. So it's basically, I would get, the short answer probably is it's in limbo.
In limbo.
In limbo.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, 667-5814. Guys, why don't we put up the phones in case anybody does want to talk to our Chief, Steve Clark. 667-5814. We are on the air live right now on your community television set. TV station, NCTV 14. Give us a call, 860-667-5814. And the only thing we do ask is that you keep your television set down in the background if you do get on the air with us, because there's a bit of a delay between when we're actually cable casting here and getting to your home. So if you could just kind of keep the television set down and just talk to the phone like you would to any other friend or neighbor or family member, just turn the television set all the way down and listen through your phone. It's just very, very difficult if we don't have that going that way. We have technical problems like you can't believe. So if you do call in, 860-667-5814 to ask our Deputy Mayor, Dave Nagel, or our Chief of Police, Stephen Clark, any questions at all. The good thing, of course, is the questions will be repeated throughout the show. I mean, and also throughout the entire month. We'll have the program on again and again, and months past that. And, if Steve wants to have his friends tune in and watch, he could do that.
Try.
Yeah, no problem. It's on the internet. It's on nctv.org, so you can go to those shows anytime. But feel free to call 860-667-5814. Yeah, Steve, it really is. It's amazing how much the town has grown and how many changes have come. But you talk about this communications thing, and it's hysterical. I mean, how many years can it be that antiquated?
It's antiquated, but it works, and it's you don't want to mess with success.
Yep.
It works, but we're at a point now where the service life of a lot of the equipment, like our portable radios that we carry, they don't make them anymore. So some of the equipment it's reached its service life, so we have to change it. But technology has changed too. Going to a digital system should help us greatly in terms of our capacity and, like I said, filling some of those gaps that we have. But yeah, you take communications for granted. You really do. It's one of those things that when you call, you see the officers responding and the equipment that they have, but it's communications that are key. I mean, just think of yourself. You're involved in an accident, or a family member has a medical crisis, or somebody's trying to break into your house, or you see an assault. You pick up your phone and you dial 911. You want to get to the dispatcher. As a police officer, when you're out in the field, you're at your most vulnerable when you're out of the car on portable radio. That's the time when you're confronting people. That's the time when you're making arrests or in a foot pursuit. And if you lose communications, I mean, it's dangerous. There's a lot of risk that goes with that. And for people to appreciate that, just think about yourself trying to call the police and not being able to get through, a life-death situation.
Now, Dave, how about with the council? Are there obviously a lot of the things that the police department wants are they must create a lot of discussion, whether we need new vehicles or whether we need this. How have we been as far as giving the guys what they need over there?
Well, Chief Clark and previous chief have been relatively realistic in terms of what the town can afford, and they have provided plans of when things need to be replaced and so on. So we generally know what happens, and once again, we're always aware of safety, and when there really is a need, as much as we can, we like to provide the funds, once again through the capital improvement project funds, which this town uniquely has, that provides the opportunity for the cell tower and other things that the police department needs, as opposed to going, as many other towns do, to a referendum or other methods. So it's built within our budget, so it benefits the police department, the fire department, whenever there really are needs.
Now, can those dollars be taken back if for any reason, like if the governor is tightening his belt? Can we lose money like that could be for the town?
No, it all comes in. It's all the town budget. It's what the town provides.
Okay.
It's not monies that come from the state at all.
Okay.
They're all
we have gotten hit quite a bit from there, right?
Yes, we have. It varies from day to day as to what the status is going to be in terms of our budget overall, and of course that's going to be discussed in the coming months, and we hopefully will at not this council meeting, but the one at the end of the month. It's in plans for having our state representatives come and talk before the council, as they usually do at the beginning of each budget season for the state, to see where they are, what we can get, what they project as being the climate in terms of funds that can come to the town to fund various things that are their basic needs, we wait and see what happens and work with them. But the CIP fund, that is a set amount that's there in the budget each year to provide monies for such projects as the one that we've been talking about today, as well as those that are related to the Board of Ed and to other departments where there are needs under a certain amount that the committee feels are necessary and justified. And we have a plan whereby the funds are projected out over a number of years, a set amount. So there are things such as the tower was put in, it was taken out, and those monies were used for another project that was appropriate or needed in some other place, and full well knowing that the police department may come back with something and that we could fit those needs when they really need it.
And that money wasn't taken out by council. That was my request.
Okay. And we appreciate that you really said that, because very
under
rarely.
the impression from the state that they were going to take the building down right away. So when I put that request in, after I learned that, I asked that the money be removed and give it to somebody else that may need it. And then 6 months later, state come back.
Wait a minute.
But it was very refreshing for the council, some departments saying we don't need the meeting because budgets have become more and more difficult, as everyone is aware in the state and locally over the past 5-6 years. And every dollar counts.
All right, if you're just joining us right now, this is the Talk to the Mayor program for January 2017, our first show, and this being the 9th of January. And actually, what we're going to be doing, I believe, in the month of February, is we're going to step back an hour to 7 o'clock. And so we'll be coming live 7 o'clock, I believe, on February 6th. And a lot of that has to do with the amount of work that it takes to pull the program together, to do the show as a live program. And honestly, it really does push the limit sometimes by the time when the rest of the crew gets out of here. I mean, I just leave. I've got my car waiting outside. Never a problem. No, it's a police cruiser. But no, a lot of the men and women that are behind the scenes here are staying pretty late. So we're going to try to respect that and see if we can pull it back to 7 o'clock. And if we hear any, if you as a viewer are concerned about it or something, you can let us know. But we've been keeping it 8 o'clock for quite some time. So we decided to go back. It's probably been maybe 20 years that we've been doing it at 8 o'clock. Nah, maybe 15 years. So we're going to bring it back to 7 o'clock. So February 6th, we will be on at 7 o'clock. If you'd like to call in now, though, we are live. Let's see. It's a little bit past 8:30. On Monday night, the 9th of January, 860-667-5814. If you'd like to talk to our Deputy Mayor, Dave Nagel, or our Chief of Police, Stephen Clark, 860-667-5814. Any questions at all? There's a lot of things going on. Of course, there's a lot of different things that the police are involved in, and we have discussed before the program that if there are certain things that Chief Clark can't discuss, he may have to say to you that that's an ongoing investigation. I can't discuss it at this point in time. I think from time to time, the people in town don't understand that some things have to be taken care of very quietly, and it doesn't mean that they aren't being taken care of. Oh my gosh, he's alive and well. Roy Zartarian, our mayor, is on line 1. Oh my gosh. Mr. Mayor, it's nice to hear from you. How are you? Oh, good. We
Or
can't
not.
hear the mayor. You folks got the mayor on line 1? That's okay. Roy won't be surprised if we can't hear him. He has the same problem when he's sitting here. Okay, Roy, have we got you? We may have lost him.
He's out there.
Yeah. Well, maybe somebody in the studio can get Roy's comments or questions off the air, and we can find out. He's not on the phone. They're just kidding us. No, he probably was on the phone.
Oh, I saw him earlier today, and he
did?
threatened to call in.
He did.
So I'm
threaten to
not
call in.
surprised that
Okay,
he.
well,
yeah.
this is his baby. He's the
you
one that
got
wanted
it,
to do
yeah.
the thing about the communications tower.
Absolutely.
Roy, are you there? Nope. I'm sorry, folks. We can't pick him up at all in here. And that's one of the problems that we have. Maybe his television sets up in the background. No,
That could
no,
be.
wouldn't it.
I don't know.
All right, so check with Roy. Maybe what we could do, folks, is maybe you can call out, get Roy's number, and if we call out from here, maybe we can get a better hookup. So see if you can get a hold of Roy if he wants to.
His cell phone.
Talk to us.
His cell phone.
His cell phone. If you haven't got his cell phone, well, you're out of luck. But we won't give it out on the air. But if you do have any questions or concerns, or anything you'd like to talk about, 860-667-5814. It really is something when you see the different things that are happening around town. Where do we stand right now as we come into the winter weather? As far as where can the kids go slide, ice skate? Where are we at with all that kind of stuff here in town? I know it's probably more of a Parks and Rec question.
Yeah, that's Parks and Rec. For skating, I think it's still Mill Pond.
Yeah, when it's available.
When it's
right?
available, and it's weird. Growing up as a kid, it just seemed like we skated there much more frequently.
Yeah, and the lights were up there.
Yeah, and then even Churchill Park.
Churchill, yeah.
But I know they keep an eye on it. And then I think for sledding, I think it might be down at John Wallace. I think there's.
Oh yeah, behind the school there.
I think they might be down there as opposed to it used to be up at Indian Hill.
It was great.
I remember taking skiing lessons for
Yeah.
Park and Rec.
Oh, you really? Oh yeah, we got to talk.
Yeah.
And it was when they lit it at night.
Yeah.
And that was Bunker.
Yeah.
That's what we called it, Bunker Hill.
It was fun fun skiing down, but not so fun climbing back up. with
Climbing
your
back up was
skates.
tough, and of course, every now and then when a toboggan would hit a tree, we'd hear about it. So I guess between the town of Newington and the folks at the golf course, they said, maybe we better not.
It's called once you get to the bottom. That's the hard part.
Oh,
If
yeah?
you make it to the bottom, you got to stop.
Yeah.
Or-
We weren't really concerned with that.
I know,
I
but-
remember ski lessons over there too.
Yeah.
I remember we even had competitions over there where you could win ribbons and stuff, for
was a
skiing and all
long
that.
time ago.
Yeah.
A long time
Long time ago. We'll go way back. What was the communication system back then?
I don't know.
All right, we got Roy's trying to give us a call on his cell phone, so let's see if Mayor Z is there. Good evening, Mayor Z. Are you with us? Okay. Maybe it's his cell phone. Maybe it has something to do with the tower here in town with communications. Isn't it great that we're doing a program about communications
communication.
and the mayor can't even get through on the phone?
You take it for granted.
That's right.
So remember all the stuff I said about calling 860-667-5814? You might want to hold off on that. It's funny because we'll do, we do run a lot of tests and everything else beforehand, but it's live, anything can happen. So it's nice to know that the mayor is doing all right. Oh my God.
I know earlier we were talking about the police department and other departments doing things very positive for the community. And I understand not only the stuff the crews are in December, but also in January there's an event coming up that you're going to
it's,
really get a little chilly about the Pilgrim Plunge
For-
on
for-
January 29th. You want to talk about
the
that?
Pilgrim Plunge?
No, it's actually
Yes.
the Penguin
I
Plunge.
was going to say, that's why I wanted to define that.
Can't read my writing.
Oh, Penguin
it's-
Plunge.
It's a Pilgrim Penguin Fund.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. It's January 29th. It's for Special Olympics. Jamie DeSimone, our community service officer,
She's
has put
amazing.
She is. Put a team together. There's 22 of us from the police department that are taking part in this. And it's at Winding Trails in Farmington. And you go for a quick swim. So there'll be 22 of us, like I said. You get donations. From what I've heard, our team has the most participants, raised the most money, most individual donations. So we're off to a real good start.
And
so
this all goes for Special
it all
Olympics, right?
goes for Special Olympics.
Because I know you guys have always been great. I remember doing stuff at the Outback.
Right,
When
yeah.
you wait on the tables and stuff.
Yeah.
Have we ever done a penguin plunge before?
No, this is the first time. so-
Rocky Hill's done it, I think.
Have they? Okay.
Well,
Do you know where
my
you're-
nephew.
Do you know where you're taking the plunge in? Because people have been asking me,
It's at
are they
Wine-
going to go? Are they going to go into a pond? Are they going to go into the Farmington River? And-
It's, from my
pond.
understanding, it's a
Yeah, I
pond.
know.
Yeah, it's a bit of a pond. It's-
So hopefully, almost half the department is participating. So hopefully Monday, those 22 officers will show up for work and not be out sick with a cold
Well,
and
yeah.
pneumonia. But
Yeah, I've been to it. I know my nephew Steve Morgan has done it a few times, and it's very close to his heart. But it's
Yeah.
sometimes it's the luck of the draw. You could have 50 degrees, 60 degrees.
right,
It's like,
or it
look,
could be 17 degrees.
Yep, minus 12.
Yeah, yeah. So.
The note says that Mayor Z was calling in to say Happy New Year to all and to say hello to myself, Dave, and Chief Clark. Or if you look at it that way, Chief Clark, Dave, and myself.
There you
so
go. You gotta
thanks a
say
lot,
that.
Mayor Z. It's nice to know that you're on the mend, and hopefully we'll see you February 6th when we do the program at 7 o'clock. Because I know you had mentioned that because so many other meetings take place that are 7 o'clock here in the town of Newington, it makes sense to do the program here at 7 o'clock because most people will be at a meeting and not watching the show. Makes a lot of sense to me. I guess that's what it comes down to. Steve, the other thing that I think is always a concern is we see a lot of these big fancy vehicles around Newington, big fancy emergency things. Some of them are almost bigger than my house. And we also have like this, I don't know what this tank is. That's the only thing I can call it is a tank. I've seen it out here in the parking lot. Tell us a little bit about some of the vehicles we have and why we have them.
Yeah. The tank is a mine-resistant armored personnel carrier, referred to as an MRAP. The previous chief, was acquired through a 1033 program. And what a 1033 program is, it's military equipment that gets donated to law enforcement. Once it reaches service life, it's donated to law enforcement for law enforcement purposes. Now, I could do a whole show on this. There's a huge debate about how police departments are taking on a military role as opposed to what their true mission is. We have an MRAP here. It's housed. It's only going to be used when we need it. Having been a SWAT commander for the Capital Region team, I would argue that they are needed. But there's a time and place for that equipment. It can't be overused because obviously it's sensitive in terms of how people feel about the use of that equipment. But when you have a barricaded subject armed with an assault rifle, those types of vehicles give you good cover, against those types of rounds. So whether you're evacuating innocent civilians or bringing officers close to the residence or to where your point is that you're going to move into the area, it's important to have that safety. But we have it. There's what they call Bearcats in the region. There's 3 of them. There's one housed in West Hartford. There's one in Manchester, and Hartford has one. And basically what those are, they're a smaller vehicle. And really, when you look at them, they're no different than a Dunbar armored vehicle.
Okay. Yep.
They're about the same size. They're outfitted a little differently, but they serve the same purpose. They provide hard cover for tactical teams moving into an area. They're needed for evacuation. You may have a residence where you have a hostage situation and you want to be as close to the residence as you possibly can to launch from that vehicle to get into the residence, because the quicker you get in, the better odds are that you're going to be able to make a successful rescue. Understanding that's the last option you want to take. But there's a whole series of questions, how that equipment is being used. I can assure people in town that it's not going to be used needlessly. There's a time and a place for it, and that's when it's going to be used.
Now, excuse me, did you have to do like a sell-through on this to get the go-ahead from the town council to purchase it, or was this funding that you had available, or what?
This was all done before I arrived here.
Okay.
So that vehicle was acquired by my predecessor. So I don't know, how was the manner in which it was acquired, but.
I was around, so I know I don't quite remember the details at the moment, but it did come before previous councils, and the questions that were brought up by the public, and I'm glad you answered them again, were brought up at that particular time. It had to, if I am correct, it had to do with surplus vehicles that the military had that were used overseas, and they wanted to give them, for lack of a better word, I don't know if some monies were exchanged or not at this point, to be used by local law enforcement facilities, but retrofitted. In other words, all the high-powered equipment and guns and whatever were removed, so that, and then they were retrofitted for the kind of purpose that police departments might wish to use or could use, and the reasons that you've just given.
And I think it's easy for people to criticize, especially when you haven't been put in a certain situation. And I've been involved in a couple situations where there was a lot of gunfire. One particular incident, there were over 200 rounds that were fired out of this house. So much so where the rounds were skipping off the pavement and going through the trees.
Wow.
And when you're in that situation, that vehicle is a godsend.
Yep. At one time makes it all worthwhile.
Hardened cover gives you some peace of mind that you're protected. And one of our tactical team, one of our armored vehicles took 2 or 3 hits from gunfire, and it held. So again, I certainly understand people's concerns. but that equipment is not going to be used irresponsibly. There's a time and a place for it. And having been the beneficiary of that equipment, when the time comes and you're at that type of risk, you want it, and it's a godsend. It really is.
Can we use it if there's, well, sometimes they call on Newington anyways in problems in other towns, surrounding towns, right?
Yeah, it's a shared resource. The Bearcats were actually purchased by the Capital Region, so there are shared resources. The MRAP that's here was purchased by the police department, but you know, we all share resources. You know, what Newington has, if somebody's in need, we'll give it to another department, and vice versa. We help each other out all the time by sharing equipment. It's just that's what we do.
What about the big motorhome?
The motorhome that was purchased.
That's huge. That's huge, Steve.
By my predecessor through a grant.
Yep.
That's for.
And that's shared also, right?
Yep, that's shared. That's the mid-state town. So that's Newington, Weathersfield, Rocky Hill, Berlin, and Cromwell. It's a shared resource.
Maybe you should define a little more what you mean by the motorhome.
Well,
For
no,
some
it's
people who don't know.
yeah. Just tell them the different things.
It's a mobile crime processing.
It's nothing that you're taking on vacation.
So we have a mid-state crime scene unit that comes out and processes crime scenes. The accident reconstruction team also uses it. The Mid-State Accident Reconstruction Team. If there's a fatal accident or a serious accident, they'll bring that out, and it's just it's a mobile office. You know, their equipment's on there. They're able to do their reports.
Holds a lot of toys too when you stuff the cruiser, right?
Yeah.
The overflow from the cruiser can go in there.
It held a lot of bikes. On a night like tonight, it's a place to go in and get warm, to do your reports, and you know, when you get to a location, everybody meets. You have a meeting and you designate those duties and what needs to be done, and you give out those assignments rather than standing on a street corner. It's nice to get into an area where you can start designating those responsibilities and keep
Now,
track
who
of
paid
it.
for that?
That was through a grant.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
so
where does the grant come from?
It could either come from the federal government
Okay.
or the state. That was purchased through a grant. There's a rapid deployment vehicle that's back there for transporting, whether it's a civil unrest team or a tactical team. That's another shared resource that was purchased through a grant.
And they have been used in other towns for
Right, and
various situations,
Yeah,
correct?
it's a shared resource. When I was the commander of the Capital Region team, there's a number of times when we used to pick it up here in Newington and use it for some of our operations.
So what's the difference between that and the whatever,
That's just-
the M? What was the last thing called?
Well, the rapid deployment vehicle is not a hardened vehicle. It's
Okay.
just for transportation.
Okay.
The MRAP is it will stop you know, high velocity rounds. You know, gives you that hardened protection. The rapid deployment vehicle is just a transport vehicle.
Now,
Doesn't
what
give
about
you-
when we see the on the Berlin Turnpike, like when they're doing the stops, you know, where they've got, you know, DUI, whatever? Is that do
That's
they,
yeah.
that's when they bring up that other vehicle out, right?
Yep. The mobile unit there, the command bus.
Is that because you can process somebody right
Yeah,
through that?
you can process people, breathalyzer. You can do everything right there. Instead of bringing them into the station, you can do everything right there.
Man,
So
oh,
it's
man.
like having a satellite station. in
Exactly.
essence.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, I don't see it in Newington as much as I see it like down in that stretch right after you go into Berlin, right? I see it a lot set up in that.
Berlin does a lot of checkpoints.
Okay, yep.
We haven't done any. I personally find those are all through grants through DOT. Personally, I find the mobile patrols more effective. Years ago, the checkpoints were good, where you got a number of DUI arrests, and I find the roving patrols, the roving DUI patrols, more effective than the checkpoint. But it certainly sends a message out there when you're out there that you know, remind people that, you know, the police are out there and they're conducting checkpoints. But there's a lot of case law that's associated with that. You have to make an announcement and the way how you stop cars. So it's very, very structured. It's just not, we're going to go out there and set up a checkpoint and just start stopping people.
So
the
our
way
guys
it's
aren't
done,
necessarily with it then. We're letting Berlin use it, but our guys
Exactly,
aren't
exactly.
with it.
Yep.
Okay, terrific. Well, I certainly appreciate you hanging around with us. If you're just joining us right now, this is we are live on NCTV 14, your community television station. We're going to see if we can go to our calls again. We only have a couple of minutes left. 860-667-5814 is our studio line if you want to call in. We just have a few minutes left, and that's usually the case when we get a call. But Charlie G is on line 1, so we're going to see if we can pick up his call again. Hi, Charlie. How are you?
Good,
Charlie,
good.
if you're-
Trying to get rid of some feedback here. I have a question for the chief. About a year ago, we had a pretty serious accident on the top of Cedar Street where a woman was actually killed. And it caused quite a traffic havoc with the traffic through the center of town. Happened to be at rush hour also. And a number of the town council people were caught in the traffic. So that kind of spurred interest in coming up with a traffic plan, kind of an emergency plan for the center of town when things like this happen. And I wonder if this is going to be ready for when the MDC does their big project this summer. With all the computer capability nowadays, I just kind of envision, if there's an accident or a traffic problem on one street, you put a couple of strokes into the keyboard, and that kind of prints out a map of what our alternative routes are to get around the problem. Is anything like that going to be ready by the summer?
Well, I think there's two issues that you're discussing. The MDC is separate from what you were talking about, the fatal. The MDC, we had worked with them last year over a traffic plan for them to do their construction, night work, alternate routes, things like that. That's still in the works. I'm not sure when that project's going to move forward, but we've been working with them as far as traffic. The other issue that you talk about was the fatal accident that occurred during rush hour. That poses a huge challenge. There's 30,000 cars that go on Cedar Street every day. And when we get an accident on Cedar Street, there's just no other alternate route to take them. They're going to go down side streets, they're going to go wherever they possibly can to get around the accident. The only way you would be able to prevent that, and we've had some discussions at the police department with the command staff to try to really look into what we can do for alternatives. And we're hard pressed with just the amount of traffic that's on that road, other than closing Cedar Street down near Fenn Road or at Weathersfield to prevent people from driving through. There's just no place to put those cars. Alternate routes off of Cedar Street are going to take you through a lot of the residential areas. You're going to push them down Maple Hill Avenue, Robbins Avenue, and they're going to go through some of the side streets there. There's just no easy way to solve that problem. There's just too much traffic in town, right? To come up with an alternate route, you're just going to send them into residential neighborhoods. And short of blocking the road at the town lines, it's a huge challenge.
Okay, Charlie?
Well, that proposed project up there with the senior home, the solution to that was when you came out of that parking lot, you turned right, even if you wanted to go left. So you went down the hill to Market Square, turned around, then come back up the hill. When you were going in, it was a right on going in and a right on going out. And so that essentially doubled the number of cars that were going into that facility. And so that decision to go with something like that, plus the reports that were done on the cars coming out of driveways on Cedar Street, that was just okayed when they applied for it, and we as a town said no problem. There's a motel up there that actually closed the exit from that motel several years ago to get it off of Cedar Street, and they actually come out near the ramp. But anything up there, whether it's the health club or or anything else just seems to contribute to the nightmare.
What if we did a traffic light or something up there, Steve? Is that doable? Like where health, whatever that is, health tracks or whatever they are now, is that something that's doable?
I don't think that's going to solve the problem there. There's 30,000 cars a day on Cedar Street.
Okay, Charlie, I got to jump, but thank you very much for giving us a call. I've got like 3 minutes left, and I got to wind up the show. Thank you very much. All right, I want to. That's unfortunately that's what happens. Is sometimes people call in at the end of the program, and I apologize for any of the earlier technical difficulties we had, especially with our mayor. Really couldn't believe we couldn't get his call. But hey, hopefully Roy's doing better when we are back on the air. On we're going to be on Monday, February 6th at 7 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock, so we will be live. You can send email to talktothemayor@nctv.org between now and then. We'll make sure that the mayor gets any emails, and talktothemayor@nctv.org. And I'm going to throw it back to you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, but I just want to make sure we have a minute here to thank all of our volunteers. Ellen Schiller, Michael Rosenkrantz, of course, Vicki Rosenkrantz. We couldn't do it. We couldn't have Michael if we didn't have Vicki, because Vicki's Michael's mom, and we wouldn't have Michael. So Robert Blank, and then Robert J. Blank, John Donahue. It's great to see that he's available to us again after everything he went through. No. Deb Scorzato, Charlene McMahon, Scott Gruskowski, and again, thank you very much to the chief for coming
Thanks
by.
for having me.
Dave, is there anything that we need to know about that may be coming up in the next month or so that people need to be aware of? Are we going to have any activity going on at the town council?
There will be, as I mentioned earlier, our state representatives will. It's
And that'll
being
be
planned at the
Paul
end of the
Doyle
month.
and Gary Byron?
And if Mr. Lopes is available,
Okay, great.
and Mr. Guerrera, we hope to have all of them. And there was a plan to have them at this council meeting, but all of them weren't available at the same time. Gary Byron, as you may have mentioned as well. So that is one thing that's coming up. Town hall renovation is moving along. I went to a meeting of that today, and they have decided to go with a project manager at risk, which moves the project to the next level of finding one, and then having that project moved hopefully rather quickly, and to the point where there is a referendum. There is a general plan as to when to have it, but I don't want to give a date now because you never know. It's kind of in flux in terms of how that plan goes. So that's moving along. The library renovation building committee has not gotten that far, but they are in talks and moving along, and the two committees are talking with each other in terms of being in sync with each other, so we have a true campus and two projects that are successful that the town will be proud of and be willing to speak in favor of when referendums are held.
Steve, anything on your wish list before we go? Anything, have you pretty much doing all right over there at the PD?
We're doing very well. Yeah,
We have to
very well.
snuff with the amount of guys we need, or how are we doing with that?
We're looking for a dispatcher. We're short. We have one in training now. We actually had 2 vacancies. We just filled one. One's in training now, and we have a vacancy. So we're trying to get that filled as we speak.
Well, we certainly, again, thank you very much for coming by, and Happy New Year to both of you guys.
Happy New Year
Appreciate
to
it.
you again.
And we will be, thank you, we'll be back on February 6th, 7 p.m. And as I mentioned earlier, if you want to send an email to talktothemayor@nctv.org, that's fine. Or once again, if the technical things are on our side, we will be opening our phone lines once again. And so please feel free. This is your television station. This is your particular program. You've asked for it. We deliver it. So anything we can do to help you out, we're right here. And also, we're always looking for more volunteers. We generally have a meeting around 7 o'clock the last Thursday of each month, right? You're usually at that, aren't you, Dave? Yeah, he's here. But feel free to come on by if you'd like to volunteer, if you have an idea for a program or anything else. So that's going to do it for the January program. Thanks again for watching. I'm Steve Parker. Dave, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Steve, excuse my
Thank you.
reach.
That's
Thanks
okay.
again. All right.
you.
See you next time on Channel 14. Have a great night. Bye-bye.